Okay, I want to make this video, but I want to be balanced. I want to try and be in the middle path. I don't want to be taking a polarized side, because you've got these people over here shouting and screaming at these people and these people shouting and screaming at those people, okay? So let's look at it. We're entering into a time now where the far right or the right-wing type of mentality is taking a bigger and bigger place in European politics and in British politics as well, okay? So what do we do about that? Well, let's look at both arguments, because until ordinary people start looking at the arguments and conversing with each other, what all we do is we leave the common ground open for the likes of Farage and Tommy Robinson, to fill up the space and start controlling what's being said and whose opinion is what, okay? So let's look at the opinion. I'm white, I'm British, I'm Muslim for 27 years. I work in a construction building site. I live on a council estate. I'm probably as common as they come, yeah? So let me analyze the argument or the point of view from the white English view, okay? When they say they want their country back, what do they mean? I don't know. I mean, you line up 50 so-called EDL members, and by the way, EDL doesn't really exist. There's no manifesto. There's no terms and conditions of being a member. It's just it's just 3 letters now, okay? But what do they want? What do they mean? Well, you get 50 different answers of 50 different people. That's for sure, okay? I line up 50 supposed EDL members, and they'll give you 50 different interpretations of what they think want our country back, or we've had enough, or whatever the slogan is that they're shouting at that time. But what they will all agree on, and what I do know it to be true, is that they mean Muslims. They mean Muslims. I mean, they say we want our country back, meaning that Islam is the problem. That's why they're pissed off about coming out of Europe, because they thought they would stop the immigrants, and they did. They stopped the immigrants from Europe, which is traditionally not Muslim, but the Muslim immigrants, obviously, that didn't affect them. They were coming either way. So when they say they want their country back, in my understanding of talking to them, I've got family members that are on the side of EDL and Farage, and even probably a little bit more worse and extreme than that. What they mean is we want our country back from the Muslims. The Muslims are taking over. Okay, they're replacing the white English traditional culture with their own new culture. Okay, and they're mixing Islam into that argument as well, thinking that Islam itself is a culture. But Islam isn't a culture, it's a religion that has rules, and those rules get embraced and intermixed with culture, okay? Like not drinking alcohol, women covering is a rule, but it gets mixed into the culture of the different people that follow it, okay? So that's what they mean. Now, the ones that are out there, the thugs that are out there throwing bricks and throwing bottles at the police, which we don't want to happen in our country. We want a law-abiding, citizens. We don't do stuff like that. I don't condone it. I don't agree with it. I don't like it, okay? But they're not really the problem. Let's be honest. They're the ones out there. They are, the likes of Tommy Robinson and people like this, they are useful fools to the people that pull the strings from behind the scene. The people that are really dangerous, you don't see their faces. You don't see them on camera. They don't go on TikTok. They don't go on YouTube. They don't go on Instagram. You don't see them. But there is an alliance of people that wouldn't normally have anything in common except one thing: Islam. They hate Islam, or they have an enemy or a threat that they consider is Islam is the threat and the enemy. Now, where is the argument that Islam is taking over this country? Well, you can walk down some streets in towns and cities up and down the country, and the whole demographic has changed from what it was maybe 20 or 30 years ago, or maybe even 10 years ago in some places, where now it's predominantly Asian, maybe Pakistani, Bangladeshi, Somali. Somali's not Asian, obviously, but it's predominantly non-white, okay? So white people will feel like they're no longer, that's not their area, and they get pushed further out into other communities like Essex and other places up and down the country. So they feel threatened by that. And I understand it to some extent. It's an understandable reaction to something, to be scared of something that's different, to not understand it. And Muslims have a responsibility at the same time to soften this blow. I mean, immigration and people moving around the world has happened for thousands of years. This is not a new phenomenon. When we had the Romans come here, they changed the culture, but it took hundreds of years. Then we had the Vikings, and again, it took hundreds of years. Then we had the Normans, and they even changed the language for the aristocracy into French. But again, it took generation after generation. It was a slower process, okay? Now it's just happening at a speed in which a lot of people are finding hard to keep up with. And then you have the people behind that have an actual enemy of Islam, Because it's not immigration that's the problem, because the Ukrainians could come over here without a problem. But the enemy for the people behind is Islam. They have an ideological and a hatred for Islam. So they can easily gaslight these people at the front to go out and cause problems and to riot and to make it racial and to make it everything else. When in actuality, in my opinion, is that it's the religion that they fear. And it's more the people pushing the narrative that control that. Okay, this is a deep subject. I'll probably do this over several different videos, okay? Now, from the Muslim viewpoint, Muslims are not going anywhere. You know, they're not going to emigrate and all go back to different countries. They're here, they're settled, they've got families, they've got houses, they've got businesses, they've got jobs. They're here to stay. And at some point, I would imagine, I don't know how many generations it will take, but they will probably overtake in number the indigenous people. You know, I mean, it's just maths, isn't it? I mean, if they have bigger families, I mean, an average family for a Muslim family is probably 4 or 5 kids at least. It might be coming down a little bit, but it's still significantly more than the average white family, which is probably 2 kids. If you just carry on that ratio, at some point, it will take time, of course, but at some point it will outweigh and they will become the majority, and then the white people will feel, you know, threatened and pushed out and everything else. But before that happens, we're going to have a lot of problems in this country. You know, you're going to have fraction against fraction, movement against movement, left wing, right wing. They're 2 wings off the same bird. It doesn't really matter. It's the one in the middle that controls them. We're going to have loads of stress and loads of aggravation in this country. And what do we do about it? Well, I don't have all the answers, unfortunately. If I did, they'd probably kill me. But I think ordinary people need to start taking the narrative away from the extremists on both sides. I mean, the extremists being Nigel Farage and Tommy Robinson, okay, who stand up and talk for the majority of people, they would say. And then we have Muslim antagonizers that stand up and say stupid things that they know will deliberately antagonize the other side. So it's like a football thing, isn't it, you know? We need, as ordinary people, to start having conversations with people. I do it all the time at work, to try and understand each other. It's the only way I think that if ordinary people don't take the common ground and take the middle ground and control it, then the extremists will take the middle ground, the common ground, and control it, and then we're going to have chaos. We're starting to get chaos now. Anyway, trying to look at both sides as a white English Muslim, I see how easy it is to gaslight certain people into acting a certain way. These thugs that go around, they've only come round to cause trouble because they're probably barred from most football matches, a lot of them. But nevertheless, we can't just say that's the opinion of all of them. There'll be people that are behind the scenes, sitting at home, having the same concerns, but just don't want to break the law, okay? It's a tricky one, it's a tricky one. Anyway, people, I'll probably go into a part 2 and a part 3 on this, but I just wanted to get that said and get that out there, yeah?